wasn't about getting into training canines or dogs. It was about getting into training people. The animals were like a consistent thing in my life because this 20-second TikTok how to train dog, you're gonna mess dogs up.
Hey guys, this is Kevin
and Emma
at U-Turn Podcast, and we always have some great videos and some great guests here, and this will not disappoint you again.
Yeah. We have a great guest, and we are so excited for you guys to meet him. He is an international dog trainer.
All right, so we got Derek Crouse. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and how did you get into training canines?
Well, you know, it wasn't about getting into training canines or dogs. It was about getting into training people.
Right.
And so, based on my background, being like, I'm a local kid. I grew up in Kankakee, but like my hub was Larab because like you always had, you know, like grandma's house. A lot of times kids might stay at their house a lot.
Yeah.
But they always had this place they go.
Yeah.
So my mom wasn't the best mom. She tried to be. So it was always like, go to grandma's. It was Larab.
Okay.
So I had that rural livestock farm thing, and then I'd roll back into South Fourth.
Okay.
And so things happen, and so it was always like the animals were like a consistent thing in my life because you go and bounce around from around.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids these days have to deal with that, whether it's you know, divorced parents or squalor or orphan homes. You'd always say the consistency there was a dog. Like I was always the kid that went to like my cousins or my aunts or stuff like that, and it was the dog.
Yeah.
And so the dog training thing, I wouldn't say it was an accident. I would say it was, now I feel like it was more of a calling than I thought it was going to be before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because going into the homes and training the people is because a lot of people just think dog training is dog training. No, the dogs are last. I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
The dogs are the last thing I have to do. It's the last of the thing. The dogs are genetically programmed to do most things based on genetics here there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a guy that's, you know, 5 feet tall ain't gonna run like a Kenyan in a marathon race.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying
Yeah,
to say?
for sure.
So genetic wise, I have to take all those things and make it happen. And so I always noticed that it was I knew, like, based on my background experience, that these dogs were capable of A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yes.
Were the owners capable of A, B, C, D, E, F, G?
Right.
And so tangible skills. So let's talk about this. So with you guys, selling cars, you have to have an intangible skill to at least communicate with people.
Yes, for sure.
And so it happens, a lot of these trainers now, they're just good at training the dog.
Yeah.
And some of them aren't good at training dog. It doesn't matter. We'll talk about the marketing aspect of how anybody can be one. But the ability to communicate information to somebody, whether they're 6 years old or 65 years old, is very hard.
Yes.
And we think now with the phone, when we put up a post, everybody's going to understand that.
Yeah.
And then context lore, you have, I hate this post, I love this post.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest thing, is when you come into homes, is when you train dogs, you come into them. Now, like my baseline of how I got into training, well, we'll probably bounce back and forth on it, but like what happened was I was covering it for media a little bit.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my friends I was in the American Bully Pit Bull thing before it became really bad dogs. When you see they're like, when they still look like pit bulls, and the breeders cared about what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
They had nothing to do with money.
Right.
For sure.
And the guys that did well should be paid for their work.
Yeah.
And the people that were trying to grab things should not be paid. And so I started traveling a little bit around the Midwest and meeting people, and like we got into like, you know, doing weight pulls and like hog hunting, like stuff like that, like where dogs are trained to do stuff, like to help people. Hog hunting's a bad thing, so dogs and people use that.
Yeah.
And then I got into production, and it was a completely different world. It was more of the lines of true obedience.
Yeah.
And so having that baseline of having, you know, whether it's a German-based trainer, a Belgian-based trainer, you know, any, you know, French-based trainer, the American-based trainer, we know what America is.
Yeah.
Right.
America's, what we do is we kind of ruin good traditions from other countries unless we keep them the same.
Yes.
So let's picture Chinese food.
Yes.
So if, like, I just finally got real Korean food the other day.
Okay.
And I was at Patrick Wilder's house. He runs All Emotive. Him and his wife Lexi are really nice people. They host a lot of my Sunday groups that I have, and a lot of that stuff's for free for people that come into my in-home.
Yeah, Patrick was friends with my mom, so I know Patrick too.
Swell guy, sweet guy, and helps everybody he can.
Yeah, super nice.
So she made Korean food, and it was so exotic. It was like, blew my freaking mind.
Yeah.
You could smell the spices as they were getting cooked, and I was training their dog at the same time. Lexi was in here. And I was like, think about what Chinese food is now. We homogenize things that have really good culture.
Yeah.
And now what happens is because we have all this, like we're bouncy, but that's who cares. We have all these relationships about culture and countries, and we want to not talk about those. We want to have inclusiveness. What the bad thing about inclusiveness is, we don't ever get to accent what the differences are in people.
Yeah.
And so as me as a dog trainer, I have to go find all those things.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, like I will go into certain culture homes and I know they're going to treat their dogs certain ways. I know into certain finance homes they're going to treat your dogs certain ways. I know that a lot of dog trainers like I have a doctor or a lawyer. Usually they just want to pay for the work.
Yeah. They don't want to
Because
put
they're
in the
well,
effort.
first off, they're so busy, or their mentality is I can just pay for this.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, sir. I'm like, I have to show you how to plumb the house. I have to show you how to roof the shingle. I have to show you how to change that alternator in your car.
Right.
I can't do it for you.
Yeah.
That's where the in-home training compared to a board and train is way different.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if you had a board and train, for instance, so a board and train says, oh, for 30 days I'm going to do this. Well, first off, that's virtually impossible to do it well. You'll have the base.
Right.
Yeah.
But why not come to your house and teach you how to be a dog trainer too? I instruct enough people. So it's kind of like the baseline of how I think about things.
Yeah.
There's
for
way
sure.
more like I said, if we were doing like a fraction, 33% dog, 33% the handler, and 33% me.
Yeah.
And then the environment's a whole other variable.
Yeah.
So when you go in, you got to realize you actually try and get that dog and that person to cohabitate.
Yeah, and then usually we have to take everything away. Usually it's like Richie Rich. Remember we were young, Richie Rich kid who just hopped in the pool of coins?
Yeah.
They've all been spoiled.
Yeah.
And so we say, well, first off, we're in America now. So what's happened, especially since COVID, we were locked up like rats, was shelters all of a sudden, we all want a dog. We all wanted that. My dogs got lazier than hell.
Yeah.
That same dog that would come in and heel by the couch, like when she come in, like you can heel by the couch, or you can go in the crate, or you can go by your place and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
She would just blow us off.
Yeah.
And it was just took 2 weeks of a trained dog.
Wow.
And so what happened was a lot of these dogs that came in during COVID, people finally got to go back to work, and then they filled back up.
Yeah.
Dogs get loose just like muscles do, whether it's mental muscles or physical muscles.
Yeah.
I couldn't do long division right now if you gave me a problem.
Yeah.
Now, if you gave me a week to redo it, I bet you I could kick its ass.
Right.
So you have a lot of families or people that I see those intangible skills, of whether things they've done in their life.
Yeah.
I had a guy yesterday. It's very hard for a prong collar to manipulate to take on and off, especially with a hyper dog.
Yeah.
He'd been in construction. The wife had a hard time. She looked like she was trying to crochet. And then he was like, and he said something that really, that's why I know the intangible skill is there. He goes, well, I've probably done that manipulation, with a tool? He was outside already working in his garage that day.
Yeah.
I take intangible skills that people already haven't had that. Much like when you have to sell a vehicle, with your selling point, and you're not trying to use deception. You're just trying to have skills they have.
Yeah.
And say, you'd like that for your vehicle? Oh, this is offered. Much like with the van, with me, when I talked to him, I talked to Jake, I said, well, I don't want to have the same white floor anymore. I'd like to have at least something so I don't have wood stuff. Oh, they pre-do that.
Yeah.
He took what I had intangible talent or skill, per se, parallel to a dog, and implemented that. That's what I have to do. What you guys and I do the same thing. We just do it.
On different scales.
Yes.
Yes.
But then I go into a home and do that.
Yeah. People come to here.
Picture if you show up to a house.
Yeah.
And then talk to them about their vehicle, the one they already have, and then tell them all the good things about it, and then tell them how to drive it.
Yeah.
And tell them and then all of a sudden come back to here and say, hey, buy this. I don't have to have that. But yes, it's a construct.
So look, when somebody's looking at a pet, right?
Okay.
How is it? When do you think is an appropriate age for because people like pets for their kids, right? What is the appropriate age when you start thinking about maybe we should bring a pet in for our child?
So pet selection comes down to this. First off, you're gonna have to think about breed.
Okay.
Yep.
You're gonna think about lifestyle. You're gonna have to think about the age of the kid, and you're also gonna think about longevity. What I mean by longevity is, remember, most dogs are going to be a 10 to 15 year commitment.
Yeah.
Yep.
much like some of these mortgages.
Yeah.
And
now car
Nowadays, like
payments. Right.
all that bullshit.
Right.
So first off, then I tell myself over that I say home environment.
Okay.
Is it a husband and wife? Is it this and this? I've looked at things.
Yeah.
So let's just stay in context and concept here. So if I look at a house and I am in let's go so hypothetical, I'm in an apartment. Little breed. I'll tell you what, if you're gonna get a high drive dog, maybe a German Shepherd, maybe even like a Terrier or something of that ilking, you're gonna have to make sure this dog has to go outside more.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if you want an English Bulldog, now French Bulldogs need more. If you use flat English Bulldog or a low drive, Golden Retriever, that might be good for you.
Yeah.
All these dogs need activity. I'm just trying to be very tight about it. Lifestyle. Are you sedentary? Do you watch Netflix at night? Most of us do now.
Yeah.
Most of us need sedentary dogs. Most of us do not need high drive dogs because we're already so busy. Now I got to tell you, hey, Emma, guess what? Now 15 minutes a day, you're going to have to go work that dog.
Yeah.
And then multiply 15 minutes per your week.
Yeah.
We schedule things in 15-minute increments. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Right,
It's truly a nightmare. I'll talk about the scheduling of that shit too. Then I say the age of the baby. So I have expecting mothers that come in. And so I do I use a box. It's called box work. That's a whole nother, that's like an actual 3 days of training. But the box basically desensitizes dogs. So I play audio and I clap hands or I touch the dog and pretty rough like a kid would.
Right.
And I'm feeding him in this box. And so I'm trying to desensitize all that bullshit before the kid comes in. Mom's bigger than hell. And then I also play babies crying on the TV as we're doing this to desensitize it. So the first day baby comes in, it's like, I don't want that to be the first inclination.
Yeah.
You know what the one lady said? Remember this a couple years back. She says to me, I said, well, when we feed in the box, we're going to go to your TV and we're going to turn on babies crying at 100
Yeah.
for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're going to feed the dog. If the dog asks wiggy, we're going to turn it off and we're going to lower the volume. It's too high. We have to condition, just like military kids. You can't just send them into Afghanistan. You might want to make them do boot camp first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we sit there at level 40 out of 100. Now we're running it. Food, baby's crying, and then they get used to it.
Yeah.
And then we bring it in. This is think about all the things that key up dogs. The doorbell's ringing, the trash guy, anything. With stuff like that, I'm not touching the dog.
Yeah.
I'm not using leashes. I'm not using collars. I'm using just it's a little bit of MK Ultra. It is. A lot of these same skill sets that I teach with the families, so I teach pretty smart people. I like teaching professors and teachers because they like the academic aspect, not just do this and do this. I'll see you later. I understand we have demographics,
Yes.
and they don't care about that. They're like, I just want a truck.
Yeah.
I want 250. Have
Yeah.
250. Give it to me.
Yeah.
You're gonna waste your time with all the science?
No.
It's very hard for me because I still give it to them whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
And some of these salesmen still do, and you're like, hey, they want what they want. Just give them what they want.
That's
Yeah.
it. Sign here. Press
Now the age. So let's go back to that. So if I was gonna buy a puppy, and I have one of my group members, she's 26. She thinks she's getting old. I told her to calm down. She's 26. She's having a baby in 4 months. Okay, she's getting a puppy right now.
Oh my Lord.
The puppy will be here in April. So it's gonna be a challenge, baby and puppy. Now, what optimally for what I would like, if it was me and my wife were gonna have a baby, and I said, okay, I want the baby to be able to move around and almost walk a little bit before I get a German Shepherd, a protection dog, especially.
Yeah.
We're talking high level shit.
Oh yeah.
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 We're not talking getting
A little chow chow.
no. So then I tell because I've seen it in houses. I was at a house in Pontiac yesterday. I'll tell you my schedule yesterday. Pontiac, the dog was looking at the kid as the resource of that dog. That kid gets more affection than I do. And so what happened was the dog had to get locked up for an injury for 6 months and watch the kid learn how to walk and talk and crawl and everything. And he was frustrated, like the kid in the hockey box.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
So
a lot.
is that resource guarding?
No, it's not
No.
resource guarding. What's happening is it's competing motivators. The love for the mom's rewarding, and the kid is taking away that. So it is a form of resource guarding, but they're not. But nothing's being guarded.
Look at you. You know something about dogs.
I
huh?
know a little
Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Alright.
let's talk
bit.
about
So
resource.
a crazy story actually happened
Yeah.
not too long ago where I don't know exactly what happened. I think it had to do with resource guarding, and the 2 dogs attacked the kids and the mom, and both kids passed
What was the
away.
prior context before the initial conflict?
I think it had to do with food.
Was it here in this?
How
area?
long
not
were
in
so
this
then you
area.
start so then I gotta be a doctor. And I
Yeah.
played diagnosis time. What was all the prior diagnosis? How long have the dogs been together? Have they ever had issues before? How was the structure of the home? Like, I have to go through that stuff with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna find, and if people aren't, I tell them, like, you have to tell me more than you tell your lawyer.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, first off, people these days, their dogs are their prized possession.
Yeah.
So why am I not? I've had it happen. I've had it happen many houses. They give me everything. Everything's cool. And then at the very end, well, the dog has a bite history. And most dogs, I don't put them on leash first day.
Yeah.
They don't put on leash for 3 sessions. People are like, what? Are you psycho?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, because the dogs that I'm working with, and I ask them that they don't have these aggression cases. I want them to feel free.
Yeah.
We don't teach kindergarten kids with leashes and pull them around.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
You have to make them motivated, just like any kid or any job. The first day, if you bring a new salesman in here, you gonna start cracking on him? Now, now I will tell you, you can do that in the right way.
Yeah.
it's an option.
So you should be able to use, like I said, I tell myself I like a little bit of blend of Joe Rogan, MK Ultra, and Marine Corps to get my stuff done.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
So resource guarding is something that some dogs I consider happen to it naturally, but a lot of times it happens, we've given that resource too much and now the dog wants to guard it. I had a lady that thought the dog was guarding her. No, it's not. The dog was trained so well, and then it got moved to the home that was there, and the dog got its own bedroom with its own bed, a human bed, and said,
wow.
I love this. It was not guarding you, it was guarding you because you protected that. It's like guarding the toxic relative that lets you do everything because they're letting you get away with everything.
Yeah.
You see the psychology I just hit you with?
Yeah.
So is it resource guarding, like if you have a baby and like the dog, like you try to go grab the baby and the
Absolutely,
dog, like,
that is
nips at
resource
you?
guarding.
Okay,
At its best.
So that's what I thought.
So the dog can
So,
nip
like-
at you. You gotta.
So if you have the baby and the dog wants to guard the baby and you try to go pick up your baby, the dog might like nip at you, bark at you, growl.
So right there in that instance, so this sounds crazy,
But it can turn dangerous.
it sounds
So is it
crazy.
protecting the baby or is it protecting you?
No, the baby.
It's
The
protecting
baby.
She said the context was she said the baby. So
Okay.
so I like dogs to be a little bit of a hooligan. I like dogs to maybe try to get in my treat pouch. I like dogs a little bit, should be a little bit more pushy. Where other dogs, it's service dogs, I gotta make them, hey, shut up, be calm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So with dogs like that, it can be a situation where you have to go all the way back into old obedience, your durations, your downs, and then say, okay, my dog does this when baby's here, because it's very hard for me to I don't get a closed circuit TV of your house every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So much. I talked to doctors about this, and like I was just at a doctor in Mokina, and I said, we were talking about what I do and what he does and how much the parallels are. Picture somebody who knows nothing about health, comes to your doctor's office. So picture somebody that knows nothing about dog training and talks to you about this. So they tell you about their ailments, they tell you about their problems, and you have to take the information, trusting that they might not know anything, and then somehow decipher that into a code. And because doctors don't have time now, you talk to them for 5 minutes, you wait in the room for 45.
Yeah.
That's what I hate about. I talk about bedside manner.
Yeah.
You don't get that. Well, what happened here? What happened there? Where I have to look at all those things. So let's say, for instance, the baby's getting guarded, and I'm like, well, why? This is not a bad thing because guess what? You can use that later. I have there's a kid in Mantino. I'll be with for like 2.5 years. We do what's called Find Gavin. And so we taught him to smell Gavin's sock after doing some salt shaker training, moved him in, and then we go to Lowe's, and they have that white fence over by the lumber side.
Okay.
And so, Gavin, I always tell families, keep your armpit, shirt, or a piece of your sock, and we pair like cheese with that, and then we remove the cheese, and they just smell this in the salt shaker. Well, quick little topical. And then what we do is we try to track it, and they drag it or whatever. Well, Gavin brought us a sock from football practice in Mantino he had a week-long sock in a bag. It was a science experiment. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Smell it. We both about passed out, me and Dad. So I said, go run. So that's the smell. Gavin's the other smell. probably just got off football practice anyways. Boys are boys. Thank God. Let boys be boys, please. So boy runs out. What he does is he lets his Ziploc bag fly away. So the track goes like this. He's here, but the bag goes like this. So me and Dad are here. He smells the sock, says, "Fine, Gavin." And the dog goes, "Phew." Now, can I correct the dog? Yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
Why can he?
What did it find?
It found the sock, but if you have maybe if you have him not smell the sock and like smell Gavin himself.
So if you walked into the military or police or the government and you said that, they would say no. Actually, some of the guys are very well. So what he did, so his job is to find odor.
Yes.
Odor was here. Odor was here. He's not finding Gavin.
Yes, he's
finding odor. Now, can I pair that and make it better? So let's say, for instance, let's say Gavin's a young kid. Now he talks about his girls. It's cute. I like watching these kids grow up. They're like, I have to be kind of like their big brother dad. And the kids that kind of watch and do what I say, like one kid now is counting as I'm doing timing and saying get over things. So I got to watch that. But like Gavin, his father's a great man. Mm-hmm. His father's a firefighter at University of Parkland, and one of the high-level guys, honor guard, teaches all the guys. He knows that I'm not making Gavin a dog trainer or teaching his dog. I'm making him a man.
Yeah.
You see the difference there?
Yeah.
That's where my job, for me as a dog trainer, that we talk about community-based, where I lived in the background of my past. This job had nothing to ever do with training dogs. This dog was to come into homes and help people and train their dog.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Everybody wanted to go to Grok and AI the other day, and they looked me up, and it talks more about my community service than my dog training. That's odd.
Yeah.
And then it says, unusual fact. Well, it is line of work. Most people don't do community service. AI said that.
AI said that?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
And if you look up AI dog trainer, they're not saying how much community service he does.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And that's a thing. Like, we need to have more community events because post-COVID, we all kind of like, remember holidays before post-COVID?
Yeah.
It was fun. It was
remember we all hung out with each other on weekends?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think what happened too as well is we had to, people felt like they were playing catch up. Mm-hmm. And I felt like we got so busy that we forgot and that's what most houses have the problem with, is they're not giving themselves just 20 minutes to just hang out with their dog.
Yeah.
If they make this a chore, they're screwed.
Yeah.
It's not a chore. It's not a chore to go do volunteer work.
Yeah.
If it's a chore to go volunteer work, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I live in Iroquois County, and I show up to almost every board meeting.
Yeah.
And Iroquois County is becoming the fastest starving growing state in Illinois, the county. Wow. The fastest starving state. And I'm like, okay. And I've worked with kids and stuff, and I wasn't always the greatest. I was a little rough on them, but because I feel like they need to be roughed up, and I look back, wish I was a little better, but to know that I would have to provide food to somebody, to think about that, literally just showing somebody how to shop and bringing chicken home, and people being very grateful for it. Mm-hmm. And we're at Court Street Ford, you go to Brickstone right now and be like, hey, we kind of forget that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's and that's the community thing.
Yeah.
And so, it's very hard. It's very easy for businesses to provide money for a thing. Mm-hmm. But no matter how much money's involved, you have to have boots on the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I've seen these things where somebody's donating a lot of money, and whether they did it for the title or did it because they loved it, I don't care. We got to take things where we can get them. Yeah. Oh, well, you want to do this? We're willing to do this? And because it takes, I've had, there's shows that, the American Bully was going uphill, downhill, and there's times where, Saturdays and Mondays are my Monday, Tuesday of my week, with dog trainings being Mondays, and Saturdays most people have off. Mm-hmm. And I've driven and spent a full day of my time just to go see these dogs and say, hey, that might have an issue. What are you feeding your dog, to help out my friends who are trying to do that themselves on their own time. Because they're spending tons of money on their own time too. So you have to find community pockets of people that can do things, but don't burn them out where you make them do it all. But what happens, you have usually in these pockets communities, and now we're in that where the 30 to 40-year-olds, all the community people that are doing this right now are usually between the age of 55 and 80.
Yeah.
They can't find anybody from the ages of 30 to 45 to do it.
Yeah.
Because why? Because they don't do it. But those 80-year-olds, they start doing that when they were in their 30s.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah.
I've been doing just most people like in Crescent City. We helped put all the concrete sidewalks down for the post office.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah.
Most people don't do that.
Yeah.
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 And that was when I was a kid, taking care of my mom still, you know?
Yeah.
So you're not going to have a lot of people think that because most people are thinking, what can I do for me?
Yeah.
Yes. And that's a big thing that we've talked about on the podcast.
Yeah, we've been
is,
pretty
like,
lucky to get.
a lot of people are always like me.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
this
remember
also-
years ago when Tim Owens, like nobody knew what a podcast was before Joe Rogan. And Tim Owens was trying to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And it was all community based.
Yeah.
But nobody cared because they thought it was PBS. But now all of a sudden, you know what's funny is PBS did basically podcasting all the time. They had 3 or 4 people talking shit and trying to get ideas and thoughts out there.
Yeah.
And it was boring. But now all of a sudden, people drive around and listen to that crap all day.
Right.
It's like letters, and it's another thing.
I did hear that you were in the Secret Service.
No, did not. No, so we need to get to that. No, hell no. So people get see these where these things happen. No, actually, I was brought out to train a bunch of military and police dogs for an event,
Cool.
and so there was 25 dogs, and the last 2 I didn't know what the hell was happening. Because I'm in a car, so like I'm in the seat, windows are rolled up, it's 90, and cars are coming in. I'm used to like taking bites and doing all that stuff, so they come to the driver's side and the passenger side. I'm like, whatever. And then the last 2, it looked like you were playing Call of Duty. All of a sudden, like it was like because they had to simulate everything. It was SUVs and extra UTVs, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And they were littler dogs, so I was like, whatever. And most dogs, when you teach them, especially like whatever, like Bradley has or whatever, on Bourbonnais, Kankakee, or State, they're going to be taught to bite either tricep, forearm, or inside bicep on a frontal. These dogs didn't care. They were like, whatever I'm going to find. I was like, whew, and they're smaller and faster and stronger.
What kind
And
of
so
dogs were
they were little Malinois.
they? Okay.
And so I got done. They were the last 2 dogs. I was smoked 25 dogs in a row, 95 degrees. I was done. So we're all having lunch, and I said, man, who are the 2 last dogs? And they were like, oh, those are Secret Service dogs. And I was like, oh, I can see why Department of Defense dogs have a little different protocol. Like, they can get away more, they need to.
Yeah.
Right.
And to this day, I've never, and those handlers, the handlers are like robots. These guys were professional, like, and I'm not. I can be when I need to be. I can be, I'm authentically professional. I come to your house, say some.
So what happened? He said these dogs.
So these guys were, so we were all tired as hell at lunch. And so we're all like, I'm drinking water, eating a hot dog, like, holy. And these guys were like, literally, they must have had some sort of commanding officer, and they said, PT right now. So after they had ran through a lake, done all the running, all the biting, they had to go do PT for half hour during lunch break and then keep going the rest of the day.
Wow.
And so
How did you get that opportunity?
well, what happened was I traveled the United States a lot, and I got noticed for my decoy work.
Yeah.
And whether it was building a dog through patient ways, through pillows and tugs, and then moving up to a suit, which is it's like a long process if you do it correctly, is they were like, hey, come out. And it was really cool to get that because like the people who train India's special forces came there and gave me a medal from one of their uniforms, from their high ends.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I got a certificate from the place at Von Lake Kennels that had it. And they were like, we've never seen like somebody like you before. Like just kept going. And it was an honor. And so back to that funny story real quick. So they're like English bobbies. They're like, don't try to sit and make them laugh. And I have a bad habit of try to make serious people laugh a little bit. And I went up to them, and I know they're pissed off this day, but I saw them giggle a little bit. This was when Biden was in office. This was a couple years ago, like 2-3 years ago. And I said, man, these dogs were rad.
Yeah.
That might be cool if they would bit your boss. And then all the officers, because it's military police, it's a fraternity. I'm one of the few civilians that get to even be in that world. It's very hard.
Yeah.
And they were like, don't say that shit again.
Dang.
I was going to be an officer back in 2018. So,
Military police officer?
I was going to be Iroquois County Sheriff.
Okay.
So long story short, I take care of my mom for multiple decades, and I've been doing media and back and forth, all sorts of little jobs just to stay afloat. And I applied, and I crushed the physical test, smoking cigarettes. They were like, keep smoking cigarettes out there. I passed that, and then I took the written test, and it's usually like a 2-hour test. And like I take tests fast, I'm already fast. Yeah. I take tests differently than you guys. I don't go like this. I go like this. Well, right or wrong. Well, right or wrong. Well, right or wrong. Because why? It's a test.
Yeah.
You should get some. You should see what you can do as you're on the fly.
Right.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people in high school, and we all know them. They were 100 A+ people, and they were dumber by the time they're like older.
Hey,
I have some best friends that I have so
I wasn't talking about me.
while they got their 95%, guess what? They got their 95%. Well, guess what? I got my 75. But my 75 was proven.
Yeah.
And guess what I would do is I'd figure out what I fucked up on them 25s, and I would fix it.
Yeah.
A lot of these people, if you're taking a test to get certified, and you go like this. I just took my driver's test. I was like 35. I was like. Mm-hmm. So what happened was Springfield came in. They're like, Derek, the other guy said that like the other guy didn't. We were actually voting Tuesday. It's funny, ironically. One of the jailer was actually with me. We were voting together outside. He's like, hey, he's like, you took that test faster than everybody. He's like, you did better than everybody. And I was like, oh, whatever. I'm like, it wasn't. I was like, whatever. And I said, I can't take the job. And they were like, what? And I said, well, first off, give it to Brock. He's a jailer. He's a good kid. He's going to be a good officer. And actually, the Illinois Sheriff's Association gave me a big award this year. So maybe I have talent. I find talent, I guess. And I said, my problem is I'm going to be too much 70s cop. I'm going to beat up a wife beater.
Yeah.
I'm going to beat up a meth dealer.
Yeah.
And this Safety Act BS that we're going through, like you can burn down a house. You can be in a high-speed chase, get out that night. Those criminals aren't dumb. They know.
Yeah.
And so I said, how about I just come into communities this way to help communities. I help canine, and then I save animal control money, and then any of these entities around here that want me to come in and help them with their police dogs, I will.
So when did you start your canine business?
So canine business was when I was just kind of fiddling. It was 7 years ago, and I was still like going in homes, but I was still working. I was working for Joker's Performance. So they've created.
We sell them cars.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked for Brett for 3 years.
Okay.
Brett said he's never been able to find an employee like me ever again. He never can.
We sell them cars.
Now tell Brett you were here with me. So we got to the point where obviously we've built cars for everybody from Big Chief at Street Outlaws, all the way from Goldberg and people all over the world. And during COVID, I was already training at night every night. Well, I was training and he was like, he finally was kind of coaxing me because me and Brett had been friends for a long time, and he knew what I wanted, and then he was finally like, you know what? Maybe we had a little spat because he wanted me to I wanted to leave at 3:30 all the time, so you could tell we both knew, and it was very we laugh about it now, and he's like, why don't you just go train dogs? And you said, okay. What happened was. Terrifying was this. It was during COVID, and so this was right during COVID, and I was like, I'm gonna go in homes. So I had to walk in and wear a mask everywhere in Chicago.
Oh wow.
And so it was very scary to jump into that world when you didn't know it was gonna happen. Yeah. And so Brett always knew my work ethic was so hard, and to know I was not like all my families on some sides were the biker people or motor people. I was never that. I know enough to maybe tell them what was going on, but I'd never be wrenching or working on it. To know that I could go in and build stuff for people and do stuff that he had never seen done, show me that my skill sets to bring on new skills was going to be good, and I could teach it. So when dogs get cooped up, just like, a kid raised by wolves, they tend to get wiggy about things.
Yeah.
And so he'll finally just chill.
So I do want to hear a little bit how you grew up, because you said that's mainly what kind of.
Oh, that's why. Yeah. So when I grew up, so my dad actually went to Bishop Mack. Mm-hmm. Dad was in our prison doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
He'd work for some biker people even out in Arizona. Mm-hmm. And I found out that he was dead before the police did.
Oh,
how'd you find out?
I found out when I was around the way up at Greyhound bus station. Somebody said, hey man, your dad's gone. I'm like, what?
Dang.
I had to call, and and find contacts and see, and they found his body, and his body was so decomposed that they had to use dentals. They couldn't use a print.
How old were you?
I was in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to set up that funeral. He's buried at All Saints. Great man, super smart, great athlete, one of the best athletes apparently. You being scared, you being scared, you being scared.
The Snickers.
And he went to SIU and he partied a bit too much. And it was kind of funny. I was sitting at Birds Park, and some old dude, like this is like 3 months ago, I was with my dog, and he's like, "Hey, I know your old man." I'm like, "Oh no!" Like, my dad probably sold him drugs and shit. Like he was a drug.
Okay.
I didn't get a lot of time with my father because I was with my mother and my grandparents. Thank God.
Yeah.
But the way he was with people, his intelligence, like the good things that he did have, like Hitler built the highway. We always try to say like something like that. And I always say like the devil's advocate. I'm like, he did have a lot of good skills. He just didn't find potential. We all know what lost potential is.
Yeah.
We live in, I've seen so many kids that I go into homes, and like, I feel like I should be training those kids more than I've been training those homes, them dogs.
Oh, yeah.
I've had it.
Yeah.
And so then my mother and them weren't together a lot. It was basically estranged back and forth. And then in 1990, I was 6. My mom has already, been on tons of medication. She had shock treatments in the 70s.
Oh,
They
wow.
gave her a PCP joint. They thought she was schizophrenic. They gave her a lot of electric therapy. A lot.
Wow.
Okay. So with that came issues that were derived from that. And so she was on medication, and before she had me, she got off medication for the entire 9 months. And no epidurals. They said it was like dealing with a demon.
Yeah.
So all through that life, by the time I was in kindergarten, I was walking to Lafayette School and already making like bacon eggs for myself and making my mom give her meds. And then in 1990, my mom asked for her meds and she took them all. It was enough to kill 12 people. And she grandma'd like boogied all over the place, like exorcists. It was crazy to think about now, because those memories lock in like dogs. They lock in, bad memories, bad car accidents. You're a fender bender, it's one that changes your life. And so I remember them coming in. The lady next door, because this is back when we had phone lines, you had to pay a lot of money. I was banging her, I need to talk, my mom's sick. I watched her I used to wake her up in the morning and jump off the top rope. Wake her up, my mom hated that. And I'm like, she's not waking up. And she was spitting, I didn't know. And they wouldn't let me use the phone. And I kicked down the door at 6. They came in. I remember Miss Barnhill and all the teachers, they said we basically were playing funeral arrangements. She had to learn how to walk again, talk again, roll off the bed. And so then what happened was my grandparents intervened, and they're solid. My grandfather's solid. So then what happened, she had to go through all these rehab facilities to learn how to walk and talk again and learn all, but then she became everything minus being able to move fast or talk fast. And so people would come up to me as a kid and they'd be like, "Is your mom retarded?" And I'm like, "Man, the lady reads like 2 books a day. Like, she's very intelligent."
Yeah.
And so I went through a lot of struggle, because even though my family is intervening, and my family, they all made sure my mom was okay and I was okay. They all made sure. But they all were like, "Make Derek better." And because of them, they made me better.
Yeah.
But take care of my mom, or some people would use that as like the victimization crutch. So that was the ultimate strengthening crutch. That was the ultimate strength builder.
Yeah.
And so then it came to the point in time when I got older, it was either your mom's gonna go nursing home and grandparents are going, because my aunts were not responsible. They like to go to the bar every weekend, period. I know there's no other way to say it. And I said I have to intervene. And so for the next 18 years, I took care of her as I was doing media, messing around with dogs, doing odd jobs to stay afloat. And then finally after that, I said, I'm gonna run this full time. I've already been to every freaking insane asylum and psychiatric ward with my mom. So trust me, I've been to those same psychiatric evaluations every week of my life since as a kid, because my grandma would bring me in there, expose me. My grandma's in nursing. She was at Shapiro. And so I already had how to deal with these things. Those are the intangible skills we had talked about. And so I thought, when I go into homes, I'm like, I already have so much of that. The dogs came naturally because I was in horses as a kid. My grandma forced me into doing equestrian. That's like Olympic jumping as a kid. I excelled. Western pleasure with Arabs. I excelled. But when you're young, it's kind of like forcing a kid into baseball. Unless he really pursues it and it's a calling, they kind of just let it fester. But all those skills matter now with the animals.
Right.
Like usually this dog would be wanting to bounce around, but he's like, right now he's just saying, I want to be by Derek. I really appreciate you guys having me out because the community means more to me than dogs.
Yeah.
The dog is part of it, but man, the community part has to happen first.
That's exactly right. It sounds like you're building community every home you get into, man, which is nice.
I've been to 100 cities.
There you go. We like that. All right, that. So it's Crouse Canine. How do they get in contact with you?
The best way to contact me is go to my Facebook, Crouse Canine.
Okay.
I have a saying, social media is where dog training's going to die.
Yeah.
This 20-second TikTok's how to train dog. You're going to mess dogs up.
Yeah.
And some of the biggest people that are well known are some of the worst trainers because I've been in the industry internationally, know the insiders, and we know what's not, but you guys don't know. You don't know who the best mechanic is. You don't know who the best roofer is. We do.
Yeah.
And so if you're like not from around here, I will shoot you to people actually know because I like giving other people work.
Yeah.
Stop trying to be competitive and try to make us all make some money.
Exactly.
We got work to do.
All right, you got that, guys. You got work to do again. Man, thank you so much. Thanks for coming out. It's been a pleasure. It's been awesome. All right, check him out. Go check him out. Check out his Facebook, Crouse Canine on Facebook. And man, let's show him some love. The guy, man, he knows what he's doing. Talk to you, and thanks for coming in at U-Turn.